Hey, this is Stevie Rochelle from Tough and Metal Sludge, your favorite website. You are locked and loaded on the Music Mania podcast.
You ready for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, brought to you by CD Warehouse in Gladstone, the #1 hard rock podcast in the Midwest, featuring hard-hitting interviews with rock's living legends. And now, here's your host, Clint Schweitzer.
It is indeed a Merry Tichmas here on the Music Mania podcast, as we hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. We say Merry Tichmas because for the second straight year, around the holiday season, we're going to be joined by none other than hard rock extraordinaire drummer Brian Tichy. You know him from Billy Idol, from Foreigner, from Whitesnake, from the Dead Daisies. Guys, he's done it all. He's released a Christmas album called Merry Tichmas. It's available on his website, briantichy.com. Songs like You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. He recorded all the vocals. The talk box, it's there. The style's great. I love this album. It's your holiday music collection's not complete without Merry Tichmas in my book. So we thank you guys for joining us. We're going to get to that interview in just a few minutes. Guys, we always appreciate the feedback. Please hit the download button on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, any way you choose to take in the show. If you have a smartphone, you can get the Music Mania podcast. And on this show, you already know the great songs. We tell you the stories. We let the artists tell you their stories. That's what it's all about for us. And 2019 is going to be our biggest year yet as we wind down 2018. With this interview with Brian Tichy, we've got some more interviews coming the rest of the month, as Christmas is going to be crazy for everyone, of course, but we are still bringing you these top-notch interviews. 2019 is going to be huge. You know, the concerts are already starting to trickle in. It's going to be concert season before you know it. You've got Kiss Into the Road tour coming around in February here in Kansas City anyway. I've got the Scorpions coming up in January. It's already starting. The fun and the excitement, the live music spectacle, that's what it's all about, and we are always there covering it, doing interviews, doing reviews, musicmaniapodcast.com. That's where you can check out all of our archived shows and reviews. And before we get to our interview with Brian Tichy, got to tell you about our sponsor, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri. Guys, for over 22 years, a staple of the Northland. They buy, sell, and trade CDs, DVDs, vinyl, and more. Do not let the vibe of the old school record store go by the wayside. Visit them, North Kansas City. Tell them Music Mania Podcast sent you, and they will give you a discount, or it's on us.
Hey, Clint, it's Brian Tichy.
Brian, it is so good to hear from you, my friend. How's everything going, man?
Everything's cool. How are you?
Oh, doing great. This has become a holiday tradition. We talked to you last year around this time, around the time the Merry Tichmas album came out. You've become a part of our holiday traditions here at the Music Mania Podcast, and what better way to kick things off this season than to talk to you, man. Hope everything's going great.
Well, yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it. Very, very cool.
Well, you know, the album's been out for over a year now. And you know, it's the season's upon us, and you know we have a new Grinch movie out. So, of course, this album's that's what's great about Christmas albums, that it can be revisited year after year. Take us back though to the process and just kind of what drove you to do this. I think it's awesome. It's an instrumental album. There's not a lot of Christmas, just straight up instrumental albums out there. Just kind of take us back to the process and how this journey began for you, man.
Well, yeah, I got to say, I keep forgetting about this new Grinch stuff because we didn't tie it in, like pushing the Grinch song. I didn't tie it in like, oh, let's make that the single, because the Grinch, I didn't even know. then I started hearing, there's a new Grinch movie, and they're selling green pancakes at IHOP, and all this stuff. So I didn't even know that. So that's nice. It ties in. It all works out. But yeah, it was just a couple of years ago on the road. I guess before finishing up a tour and coming home for the holidays and stuff, I just thought, man, when I get home, it'd be cool to I have a home studio, so I can just do everything myself whenever I want. I was like, through the course of the year, I should just pick out my favorite Christmas songs and do it. I kind of had in my head, I was just, the simple idea was, I'll try and get some really cool, like, John Bonham type drum sounds and Jeff Beck's guitar, like as if you could, those two were in a room together playing Christmas tunes. That was the little idea in my head. Of course, I'm not either of them at by any stretch, but that was kind of the idea, and the finished product doesn't really sound like that. I took a lot of twists and turns and
about our sponsors, CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri.
As you get into songs,
I'll tell you what, guys, for over 20 years, a staple of the Northland.
You hear, this Talkbox.
CDs,
Talkbox
DVDs,
might work great on this.
vinyl, and more. Do not let the vibe of the old school record store go by the wayside. Hit them up today. CD Warehouse in Gladstone, Missouri.
The drums might sound better like this.
A staple of the Northland.
As you're making it, you're figuring it out. And that was it, man. I was just like, I thought it could be fun to do in my time, my spare time, more or less, and it's one of those things. Yeah, every year it comes around, you can put it back out there, and I really wanted to have the finished product sound to fit in with the more or less the most popular Christmas music. So if you have a something in shuffle mode, Christmas music shuffle mode, and you go from Nat King Cole to Sinatra to Elvis, hopefully one of these songs pops on and it doesn't raise an eyebrow like, oh, this isn't fitting in. You know what I mean? I just wanted it to be able to fit in nicely to everything else that we listen to. Yeah, that was it.
Well, I've replaced George Michael and Mariah Carey with some of your tracks, so it's getting better around here. I also got Twisted Christmas, of course, and the Very Hairy Christmas, I think, that came out 10 or 12 years ago. I'm really stepping my game up here when it comes to Christmas stuff. But, it's been a year. Talk about just kind of what the reception's been and the people you talk about. I mean, Brian, you've done so many things and worked with so many great artists, but this is kind of a different project for you. Just talk about what the reception's been like and some of the people you've talked to over the year.
Well, the top thing that comes to mind that probably it means even more now than it did, but I was very surprised when it happened, was as far as reception. Reception's great. I worked hard at making it sound like a cool holiday record, and the reactions and reception is all totally cool. And like I said, it's not a metal Christmas or a punk Christmas. It's just a rock record, but there's some other elements in there that give it more of a well-rounded festive vibe, rather than a One Direction type thing. But last year, I remember going online, on Facebook, and Vinnie Paul, my buddy, the drummer from Pantera and Hell Yeah, who's probably my favorite drummer of all time. He loves the holidays, and I sent him a CD, and he went online and said, "Man, this is probably the best Christmas CD out there. Tichy did a great job," and I was just floored that he took the time to do that. And that meant a lot. And for anybody who doesn't know, Vinny passed away this year in June, which just really sucked because he lived between Vegas and Texas, or in Dallas. So whenever I played in Vegas and he was in town, he'd come and see our shows and hang out and stuff like that. So I miss him, and I'm just so bummed he's not here. But it was really nice last year when he took the time to pump the record up and say how good he thought it was. That was great.
Well, that is awesome, and it kind of leads me to this, because tying it in with the appearances you make for the Randy Rhoads annual show that they do every year. I mean, it's getting, because I know what a fan you are, and I know how influenced you were by so many of these guys. Vinnie Paul, we've just in the last 3 years, Brian, we've lost so many great rock musicians. I mean, starting with Lemmy, a few years ago, and up to now, Vinnie Paul, and back in June. It's just got to be a sobering thought for someone like you that's not only a fan, but has played, a guy that's played with so many of these bands and rubbed shoulders with so many of these guys. I mean, it's got to be just a sobering thought, man. Your heroes don't last forever. That's why this music has to be, we've got to keep it going on,
Oh yeah, and when that stuff happens, I mean, I couldn't, whether it was Dimebag, and when we heard about that was just so tragic and just so senseless and ridiculous, and it affected so many people, and he was just such a huge personality and such an amazing player, and that's still bums everybody out, man. It's just the thought that he's not here, and then for his brother to pass this year, it's just like, man, in simplest terms, it just makes you realize you got to make the most of what you have when you have it, because you can't take anything for granted. When you're down and you think you got this or that going on. You go, hey man, I have my my health and my family, and you got to look at the brighter side and bigger picture, because you wake up one day and you find out, okay, one of your favorite singers in the world, Chris Cornell's not here anymore, and you're like, damn, I wanted to hear more music from this guy. I wanted to see him live. I like knowing that he's out there just killing it, being Chris Cornell, and now that's not going to happen anymore, or the Tom Petty or whatever. It's just, for anybody back in the day, the John Lennon, which was just insane, how could this happen? He just put out a record, he's coming back. He's all over the radio. He's back in the center of everything, and now he's gone, So yeah, it's a bummer, it's a bummer. So you just always have to take advantage of what you got while you got it,
Absolutely, that's very well said. And I wanted to bring up this Randy Rhoads tribute that you've been a part of. I think there's been 5 of them now. Bash Fest, you've been involved in this. So many great musicians coming out and paying tribute to Randy Rhoads. I mean, this thing is so cool. I mean, just seeing the list of people that are participating, it's something that I hadn't even seen much about till about a year ago. Talk about that and just kind of what it means to you to be able to put this together and pay tribute to Randy.
Yeah, not that I'm trying to, inflate my ego or whatever, but the shows literally started from an idea I had a long time ago, just because John Bonham is my favorite drummer of all time, and I just had a little idea of what if we put a drum set at the front of the stage and had a bunch of notable drummers pick their favorite Zeppelin song and play with a house band, and that was the idea. And my partner in this stuff, Joe Sutton, he's a local promoter in Hollywood. When I told him the idea, because I was doing a show for him, he said, man, that sounds really cool. That sounds like people could dig that. And I go, yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Because initially, I just wanted to rent a rehearsal room and have a party, get like a keg of beer and, whatever, and invite people over and just, everybody play some Zeppelin in honor of Bonham. That was it. But I'm like, if I actually get, of these drummers together, I think it would be something people would want to see, and let's make it worthwhile for everybody instead of just going to a rehearsal room and have a party. Let's make it a thing. So it worked out. My partner was like, he worked at this club in Hollywood. He goes, I have that night on hold for an event. So that it worked out, and it was just supposed to be a one-off. I didn't know what I was getting into. But we had 20 great drummers, and it was a great show, and we kept it moving. So it really stemmed from that simple little idea, just like that. It wasn't even let's promote John Bonham, but let's get my name out there. It was more just, this sounds fun. This sounds like something that could be really fun. And while we were putting that first Bonzo Bash together back in 2010, we were talking, and we both loved Randy Rhoads, and it was so simple. One of us said, man, if we ever did this for a guitar player, it'd have to be Randy. And then we were like, hell yeah. My partner saw Randy on the Blizzard tour. He owned a Black Jackson, when he used to play guitar back in the day. So a few years later, we had an option to do 2 nights at this venue, and we were going to do a double Bonzo Bash because there were so many drummers. And then we just realized it could be overkill. You might not want to dig in that deep, and we were going to give the night back to the club. And that's when we said, wait, if we're down there doing this, let's do one for Randy. And that was it, and it's a lot of work, so it's not as simple as saying, let's do a show and the show happens. There's a lot of stuff you got to think about, and there's a level of organization and respect that's got to be constant, as well as, keeping it fun for everybody. While you're putting on a show and you're dealing with all the stuff behind the scenes, everybody involved just has to show up and have a good time, and you always have to keep that goal at the forefront of, we're here to honor Randy Rhoads. We're here to honor this guy that, for me in 7th grade, when I first heard I Don't Know on the radio, blew my mind. And I was a drummer who kind of could play a chord on guitar. And it took these shows for me to realize Randy Rhoads was the guitar player that made me stop and go, I want to learn how to do that. That became the beginning of me really trying to play guitar better. So this year, we are doing both shows in the same night. We're just doing a double whammy on Thursday, January 24th at the Yost Theater on what we call NAMM Weekend, the NAMM Music Conventions in town in Anaheim. So it's always a great time to go for these shows because there's so many options of drummers from out of town that will be there. You try and do your best to have a great list of some of the best drummers around playing in honor of John Bonham and some amazing guitar players honoring Randy. So we're squeezing it all into one night. We're gonna give put it all together. We really only had one night to choose at the point when we had to make a decision, and we were literally sitting here going, do we do Render Us Remembered or do Bonzabash? Which one? I go, I mean, how do you pick which event when I love them both the same? So we said, you know what, let's put our heads together and figure out a way to make them both happen in one night. So that's what we're doing.
Well, Brian, for many years now, you've been, one of the more in-demand drummers in rock and played with so many amazing bands and amazing artists and done so many great things and albums and tours. But about a year and a half ago, you departed from the Dead Daisies, a great band, great guys. I've interviewed every single one of those guys. Just talk about the last year and a half for you. Obviously, you recorded the Christmas album, which is awesome. Just talk about what where you see your journey heading. What's next? Basically, the old question: what's next for Brian Tichy?
Well, that's a good question, because sometimes in this business, and I don't know any other businesses than the music business, but there's no guarantees, and it can create, decisions you make are based on so much more than why you started playing music, and everybody's got their own story, everybody's got their own path they're on, and, how did this drummer, how did this musician go from this to that, or how did he become this, or why is he doing that? Everybody's got their own reasons, their own stories, and there's so many factors involved that, come together to, for you to make up your mind on what you want to do. And sometimes sometimes there's a lot of work and sometimes there's not, so, just because you're on the phone or you're hustling or you have a good resume, that doesn't mean that you're going to get nonstop calls just because you're available. So it's a bit of a game and it's the strategy, but there's also a bit of luck involved. So you just at this point in my career and my life, it's more like, okay, at least I have a decent resume, and I'd like to think I don't come into new music situations acting like a dick or with some ego or attitude, because my goal is always, if you hire me, I want to make the people that hired me happy first. I have nothing to say to you until you're happy with what I'm here for. It doesn't matter what band it is, but and I see that through to the end. It doesn't matter how long I've been in a band. I would never look at like a Billy Idol and take it for granted. That guy created something amazing, and he deserves to get whatever he wants. And the least I can do is make him happy. And the main thing to do to make him happy is not be a dick and kick ass on drums. And that's it. Everything else after that will fall into place if you if you allow it. But if you start trying to think you're this or that, man, it's funny. I guess some people think I'm integral to this band to the point where I can start voicing my opinion maybe a little louder than I used to. And man, I look at it like this: if you can replace Bon Scott and David Lee Roth, then I'm sorry, but outside of John Bonham, there's been no replace. Everybody's replaceable, and I think you look at the history of rock and roll. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but outside of John Bonham, I mean, Keith Moon was replaced. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to know your place and be smart about it. But so this year, I took advantage of being home more, and I've done a lot of, I guess, what you would call smaller things. Like I kind of didn't really want to be in a band on tour and committing a chunk of my year to something just to do it. You know what I mean? And at the same time, if something came up, something that was exciting to me, or something that I thought I would love to do, then I would have jumped on it. But so when you add that stuff up, I was fine being home working on some new projects, and this new band I have with this amazing singer, and it's all a process. Even though you have an idea or you have a goal, and you want to work at a certain speed, it doesn't mean that everything else going on in your life or others' lives that are working with you, it doesn't mean it's all going to happen at that as fast as you want it. So sometimes things take time, and other times you wake up one day and you're getting on a plane to go, jump on a tour and fill in for somebody for the next month or two of your life. There's always it's a blessing and a curse with this business, because it's music, and we all start doing this for the passion of music. And every time I say that, I think about Gene Simmons says, anybody that, musicians, they tell you they didn't get in this for the chicks and fame are lying. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. He is a great singer and a great bass player. He writes some great songs, and he's done amazing. And he had to put the time in to learn his craft. You know what I'm saying? So, we all start from the same place, but then when you get into the reality of, adulthood and life and the business of what you're doing, there's a lot more to it. You have to figure out that balance of work versus passion versus paying bills versus, time that you want for yourself versus time you're going to dedicate to a project. It's fun, but it's also, it can be stressful,
Absolutely, and I don't know if you've seen I'm sure you have, the documentary on Netflix, Hired Gun. It always makes me think about guys like you and Rudy Sarzo and Jason Hook, guys that have just done so many things, and the question comes up, and I asked Rudy Sarzo this exact question when we had him on. I said, where does personal happiness and satisfaction rank versus a steady paycheck on a gig that you're so about? And I guess I'll ask you the same thing. Where does that rank for you? Because obviously to have that outlet is so important for artists, but also just having a gig, getting paid. I mean that as well. So what would you say about that? Well, what ranks higher for you?
There's no equation that you can factor in your head to get to any answer for that. And Rudy is a great friend, and he's one of those. He's, by the way, the bass player in Randy Rhoads Remembered, and it's nothing but an honor to be able to play that music with him, because I am that kid that bought those records and was reading the circus magazines, looking at pictures of Rudy, going from the Ozzy band to Quiet Riot, and wow, this guy's everywhere. The scene is crazy. These rock stars. And, you're just looking at that whole thing, and now to be able to play with them on the same music that changed my life is always an honor. And yeah, man, Rudy's been through so much. Meaning, he's been in so many bands, he's had so many gigs, but he's got to make choices, and it's up for Rudy Sarzo to decide what move to make, and his move might not be the same as mine, or vice versa. So, there's always an equation, but there's no answer to it. So it's really where are you at, and where are you at with your resources, and where are you at with your goals, and what's in front of you, what's being offered. You have to weigh it all of it out. It's a pros and cons thing, and then there's one thing. Okay, we all have to work and pay our bills, right? So you have to factor that in, but you have to factor how much time towards something, and what am I gonna make for dedicating my time to that, and how much do I believe in this? And you ask me, what do I think about Foreigner? I love Foreigner. I grew up on that music, and the band is amazing. And I was in that band back in '98 when it was Lou Gramm singing for those couple of years I did it, and then I've been in the band with Kelly Hansen and Jeff Pilson and the current band, and I've had a great time in that band. And there's people that would be like, well, why wouldn't you stay in such an amazing band with songs that you love? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of a good question, but I think, for me at least, it's like sometimes you want to see if you can, just get a little, like Foreigner's busy. There's a nonstop machine going on there. It's an amazing band, and I'm glad. It's so great to see them headlining amphitheaters all summer now, because years ago that's kind of what they were trying to get to, was that point where they can be there, and through nonstop work and nonstop hard work, they're there. It's an amazing band, and every time I get a chance to play with them, I absolutely love it. But I just, you got to go, okay, another year of my life. Do I want to see if I can leave a bit of an open door and go for some stuff that I haven't hit on yet? You know what I mean? And for me personally, I think, I don't know if everybody's like this, but for me as a kid, the coolest thing in the world was to be a drummer in your own band, whether it's Zeppelin or The Who or Iron Maiden or whatever. Or Rush, you'd see a band, Van Halen, I don't know if I said them already, but you look at these guys that are your idols and you go, man, they started something on their own, wrote this music, came up with a vibe that is all about them, and people love it. And that's what they do. They wake up and they go, okay, we have to make another Van Halen or a Rush record and go on tour. I think that's, for me, there's nothing better. And I haven't been in that band that I started, or where we wrote our own music and it became successful. I've done some cool things with notable bands, but that's not one of them. And I think in the back of my head, it's always that thing that I want to see if I can make happen. And whether it happens or not doesn't really matter. It's the fact that you're going for stuff. You're going for stuff that you've always wanted to see if you can do, and that's how you watch watch some of the biggest artists in rock, read their stories. I mean, there's a time there was no Jimi Hendrix, but there was I think he was still Jimmy James or something, playing with Little Richard. You know what I mean? And here's Jimi Hendrix. Now, what if he didn't pursue his own stuff as hard? What if he just kind of was cool playing with Little Richard for the next 5-6 years, and then went in to play guitar for some other singer that went to Tina Turner or whatever? What if then 10 years went by and luckily the world got Jimi Hendrix, that guy, the top of the rock guitar world. There's Jimmy that set this level. Man, so I'm glad he went for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh man, Brian, awesomely, just so well put. Always enjoy the conversation, Brian. I tell you what, before we let you go, we got our final 4 drum roll, 4 quick questions, and you just kind of give us whatever comes to mind. Okay?
Sure.
First one: how many shows on the Kiss farewell tour, End of the Road, will you be attending?
I'd like to say at least 1.
Yeah. You got 3 years to do it, Gene says, so.
Well, yeah, with that in mind, yeah. I would say that it's safe to say 1, But I've had the good fortune of seeing them many times, because we did quite a bit of opening up for Kiss, so that was always... And that was my first band, 11 years old, Madison Square Garden, going with my dad, so that nothing will top that. Like, nothing is going to top seeing Kiss at 11 years old in Madison Square Garden, So although I've had I've got that as that first rock concert ever memory, and seeing them a bunch of times as of late, it'll be great to see them before you don't have that chance again.
Absolutely. Number 2, so I'm always working, I'm always going to shows, and sometimes I take on ones that are a little off the wall. So tonight, Brian, I'm going to go see 98 Degrees. It's their Christmas show. They also have a version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. Better version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, Brian Tichy or 98 Degrees?
I'm sorry, say that, the ending of that question again?
So I'm going to see 98 Degrees tonight, the boy band, okay? Yeah. They do a version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, right? So it's a Christmas show. I go to all sorts of things. I get roped into all sorts of events and things like that, Brian. So I'm going to that. So my question is, what's the better version of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, 98 Degrees or Merry Tichmas?
Oh, well, come on.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going by the vocals, they absolutely smoke me, because mine's instrumental. but I haven't heard the version. It takes me a second to even remember that there's a band called 90 Degrees.
Me too.
I kind of don't pay much attention to a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm bad with a lot of stuff like that. But I'm sure the version's awesome for whatever they went for, whatever version it is, and. But I would say there's a lot of vocal versions of the Grinch, and there's probably a lot of pop versions, and the version I've done is not pop. It's more guitar-driven, and I stayed close to the original. Some people have done amazing versions of their own, covering Christmas songs, but sometimes there's that one version that stands out. When you hear somebody else do it, you're like, it's just not right. Like, the Kinks, You Really Got Me was awesome, but Van Halen, somehow, it's just as awesome, if not next level, and it put them on the map. But sometimes you hear a version, you're like, it's not working, just something doesn't work. So, I'd say, my answer would be mine, because I want people to hear it.
Well, yes, and that was my desperate attempt at humor here on this podcast. Of course, we do all sorts of things, but Brian. Come on, Brian Tichy, Merry Tichmas. That's the version that we're going with here. So, question number 3, and I've asked Jeff Pilson this same question. You might know, you probably guess his answer. Better fictional band, your favorite fictional band, Steel, Dragon, or Spinal Tap?
Oh my goodness! Spinal Tap is that's where it all starts and ends to me. That I was the kid that heard the commercial on the radio about the biggest band from England coming over, Spinal Tap, and they're playing the Hellhole song. And I'm going, I'm a kid, whatever, it's like ninth grade. I know my metal. I know what's going on. I read my metal magazine. I've never heard of this band. What the hell are they trying to promote themselves as? I went to the movie theater thinking I was going to watch a real band, did a documentary on a real band that, pumped themselves up as the biggest thing in England. And I don't know how long it took, but man, I laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. And there's, somebody. So yeah, man, it's Spinal Tap all the way, man. That's an iconic movie. You put it on. I can't watch it on the road because it's too close to home. Because
right.
You start realizing you're just a little whiny bitch on the road complaining about stuff you shouldn't. And it's all in the Spinal Tap movie, but. It's amazing, and I think I literally fell out of the seat because that's a common phrase, but I do think I may have fallen out of my seat in the theater when Nigel was doing his guitar solo and literally took the violin, starts scraping it across the Les Paul, and then stops for a second amongst all the complete noise to tune a tuning peg on the violin and then continue with the noise. I think that I was out of my seat for that.
Well, Jeff Pilson, he said Still Dragon, but he's biased. Okay, so last question on our Final Four drum roll.
You might want to ask him, or somebody, Still Dragon or Still Panther. Go with that.
Well, that's a better comparison. You're right. That's true. That's true. Final question, our Final Four drum roll, Brian. And we appreciate you playing along. This has been so much fun. How many times did you have to watch Rocky III to give you the inspiration to do the speed bag?
Oh, yeah, it was Muhammad Ali and Rocky 1.
Okay, there you go.
When you're a kid and you're watching Rocky 1 and he goes into training mode. I don't know what kid doesn't get pumped up and want to start speed bagging and boxing and it's my favorite movie of all time, Rocky 1. So it was a combination of that just sitting in the back of my head for years and maybe somewhere being in a gym where they had a speed bag, and trying it and going, well, I'm a drummer. There's rhythm here. I should be able to, and realizing there's so much more to it. You don't just hit this thing and it works out. It's not that easy. And man, it was probably a decade ago. I went on YouTube, just typed in speed bag, started watching these guys that are now my good buddies, just killing it on the speed bag. I went home and had one in a box and screwed it into the wall in the garage and just started slowly but steadily and put a lot of time into it. So yeah, man. Sly rules, absolute rules, and those movies, all of them, man. I'll put on any Rocky movie and dig it.
Well, I'm excited about that because I use that Rocky reference just sort of as an aside, not thinking you were an actual fan. That's awesome because I see. I'll tell you this: I'll never hear Rush's Limelight the same way again, Brian, thanks to you, because that was an awesome version you did on Speedbag. I'll never hear that song the same. Sorry, Neil Peart.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad it got out there and got seen because I had put out other Speedbag videos that somehow that one caught on, and I think it's the art of tagging and in social media, which I probably don't do that well, but it worked out where it spread around a little bit, and I remember getting a call from a buddy. One or two of these things happened. Like a buddy in Phoenix was like, "Dude, they're playing the audio from your Speedbag clip to Limelight on the radio," and I was like, "What? That's awesome," So yeah, man, it's a lot of fun being if you don't know anything about Speedbag, you get it's maybe it's not for everybody, but if you're a drummer and I love the controlled chaos, and I love the art of the advanced speed bagging and all that goes with it. I love the sound of it. I love the rhythm, and for me, it wasn't a training tool. It wasn't like a boxer or a MMA training tool. It was more just a rhythm and technique thing. I just love everything about it. So yeah, but thanks for enjoying that.
Absolutely love it, Brian. I tell you what, kid, thank you so much for joining us again. I guess we'll just have to make this a tradition. We'll plan on talking to you again, next December sometime. We'll just have to keep this going, man. We always appreciate it, and thanks so much, and best of luck and everything. And we'll definitely be in touch, my friend.
Well, thank you, and anybody who wants to check this Mary Tichmas record out, it's BrianTichy.com. It's that simple. Just go there and click, and get a digital download or the physical CD, and there's T-shirts there, festive Merry Tichmas T-shirts. So,
yes, and I believe even a Christmas sweater. I think a Christmas sweater looking T-shirts in there. I gotta get that for my family gathering. So I'm on it, man. Thanks so much, Brian, and happy holidays to you guys.
All right, you too. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. So great to catch up with Brian yet again. It is not the holidays without an interview with Brian Tichy. He's a part of our holiday traditions now. He's basically the equivalent of the stockings being hung by the chimney with care and Merry Tichmas. Hope everybody goes to the website, briantichy.com, and checks out his Christmas album, Merry Tichmas, as we've been discussing. Guys, we thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you're all having a wonderful, safe, and happy and healthy holiday season. It's the season of perpetual hope. And you know what? Music is so unifying that, that theme even holds true here on the Music Mania podcast. We cannot thank you guys enough for listening, for downloading, for subscribing. If you have a smartphone, if you have Google Play Music, if you have Apple Podcasts, you have this show. Subscribe to it. You'll get a notification every time a new show pops up. You'll never have to miss one. We always appreciate you guys listening, and it just means the world to us to have an audience and to have a means, of which to express, my love for this kind of music. It just means everything. So we hope you have a safe and happy holiday season. Thanks so much for joining us. 2019, the Music Mania podcast will be back and better than ever.